Good afternoon, fifth graders. I'm so glad that you were joining us for today's episode of the Decimal of the Day show. However, before we get started, I want to talk to you seriously for just a moment. When I ask you to get paper and pencil out and copy something down, I'm not being mean to you. I'm helping you learn. You are an RCL student. That means that you are more responsible for your own learning. If we were in the classroom, I could stand behind you and look over your shoulder until you got the paper and pencil out to ensure that you were doing what you were supposed to do. I can't do that from here. I'm depending on you to be responsible for your own learning. If you're just sitting there doing nothing, you're kind of like a bump on a pickle, because a bump on a pickle sits there and does nothing, and that's not cool. Research has shown that if you write something down, it helps your brain remember it. That's what learning is all about. You're not cheating your teachers. The only person that you're cheating when you don't follow the directions, you don't watch the videos, you don't get out your paper pencil, the only person you're cheating is you. Because if you're not learning, that's not cool. It can even affect what classes you get into next year in 6th grade. So when I tell you to go get your math journal or get paper and pencil, I expect you as a 5th grader to be responsible enough to go ahead and do that. Now, we've been having fun and being kind of silly with our Decimal of the Day show, but I do that to try to entertain you, to make it fun. But you're also supposed to be learning at the same time. So, be that responsible learner and do what I need you to do. Okay, now audience members out there in computer land, let's get started on today's episode of Decimal of the Day. Here is today's decimal. Now, if you don't have your math journal and your paper and pencil, I want you to push pause right now and I want you to go get it. Now you should be ready. What I want you to do on your paper and pencil, or preferably in your math journal, is write this number in word form. Remember, you are going to have to say it before you can write it. Pause the video and do that, please. Now that you're back, we're going to check and see if you have it correct. If you do, that's great. Pat yourself on the back. If you don't, it's your job to listen and learn and figure out where you had your breakdown in understanding. Okay. As I look at this number, I see that we have a whole number. It's the whole number 2, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down. I know that the decimal point says and. Now I'm going to look at this decimal number's first name. And its first name is just the number that I see behind the decimal. And I see 685. So that's going to write what I'm going to write down. 685. And now I have to determine the decimal's last name, and that's going to be the value of the last place value spot, and that is thousandths. So 2 and 685 thousandths should be what you have written to write this decimal number in word form. Now I want you to pause and write it in expanded form. When you have finished, unpause and we'll see if you are correct. This number is in the ones place. So I'm going to have 2 times 1 plus 6 times 1/10 plus 8 times 1/100th, because that's the 100ths place, plus 5 times 1/1000th, because that is the thousandths place. So check and see if you have written this number correctly by writing it in expanded form. Now today I'm going to add something new to Decimal of the Day. I want you to take this number, write it in, and I want you to add 3 75 hundredths to this number. and see what you get. Pause the video. You're going to have to write it vertically to be able to solve it, somewhere over to the side of your paper. When you've finished, unpause, come back, and we'll see if you're correct. Okay, you'll notice that the numbers don't line up. Can somebody out there tell me why that is? Yes, you. You're right. In decimals, we don't worry about lining the numbers up like we do in whole numbers. We have to line the decimal points up. Now, if I have an empty space, remember I can put a 0 in. And the only time that it's ever appropriate to use this put down word is when you're talking to a decimal, because it's sitting there and it's saying, nah, 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 I'm going to mess you up. What you're going to do is tell it to shut up and come down in a straight line. Now you're going to add the problem just like that decimal is not even there. 5 plus 0 is 5. 8 plus 5 is 13. Put down your 3, carry your 1. 6 plus 7 is 13, plus 1 is 14. Put down your 4, carry your 1. 3 plus 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And your final answer is 6 and 435 thousandths. Now what I would like for you to do on your paper is to write 2 and 685 thousandths equal blank. 2 and 685 thousandths equal blank. Now, in this one, I want you to round it to the nearest tenth. In this one, I want you to round it to the nearest hundredth. Pause and take care of that. Great, I'm glad you're back. And I really appreciate those responsible learners out there who know that you're responsible for your own learning. You're mature enough to be an RCL student, so you're doing this along with me. You first had to locate the digit that's in the tenths place and draw a circle around it. That's going to be the 6. You're looking at the neighbor in the back, which is 8. You're remembering the rhyme. 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. The neighbor's 5 or more. This 6 can only do. That's Bear, the German Shepherd. Evidently, he's in the audience today. I'm so sorry. That 6 can only do one of 2 things. It's going to stay the same or bump up. Because this is 5 or more, we're going to raise the score. We keep everything in front of it, and everything after it drops off. So the answer is 2 7/10. In our next problem, we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. So we're going to put a circle around the 8. That's the digit in the hundredths place. Now we're going to look at the neighbor in the back. The neighbor is 5 or more, so we're going to raise that score. We're going to keep what comes in front of it. That 8 can only do one of 2 things. It's either going to stay the same or raise up to the next number. And it's going to raise up to a 9, and everything behind it is going to drop off. Okay? Now we're going to do one more thing today on Decimal of the Day. We're going to take our number that we have here, 2.685. Is that really the way you say that? No, I was just doing that to see if anybody was going to call me and catch me on it. It's 2 and 685 thousandths. And we're going to compare this number to 2 and 7/10 using one of our inequality symbols of less than, greater than, or equal to. Pause the video and do that like I've taught you to do. Okay, what you should have done is somewhere on your paper to to write these vertically. If you have missing digits, you can put in your zeros. Now we're going to look one digit at a time. So what I'm going to do, I'm looking at the ones place. The value's the same, that doesn't tell me anything. I'm looking at the tens place. I know that 7 is more than 6, so this number is more. And remember, I always have trouble remembering my inequality signs, but I do know that the alligator always eats the bigger number. So I'm making sure my alligator mouth is open to the bigger number. And we would read this as 2 and 685 thousandths is less than 2 and 7/10. Thank you for joining me today for our episode of the Decimal of the Day show. We did not have any audience members joining us today. However, Bear, my German Shepherd, did make an auditory appearance by barking in the middle of the program. I will have to have a talk with him about that later. Now, the next time we do Decimal of the Day, I shouldn't have to tell you to go get your paper, pencil, and your math journal. Remember, you are a responsible RCL student, responsible for your own learning. Don't be a bump on a pickle and just sit there, because that is not cool. See you next time. Bye, audience members.